Hey everybody, this is Danilo from Peaceful Anarchism, from the Seeds of Liberty podcast, theconsciousresistance.com, and the Voluntary Virtues Network. And I just wanted to discuss a little bit about the Dallas shooting, um, and all the commotion that it has stirred up on Facebook as a result. So yeah, a couple days ago, I think it was two black guys got shot and killed by police officers in Louisiana and Minnesota, and very tragic, very unfortunate, and a lot of this police brutality is, it's increasing, and I'm not going to say if it's as a result of racism or not. But what I want to focus on is the idea that police officers in general, I mean law enforcement, they are the teeth of the state, right? They're the fangs that provide it with the power to compel everyone to obey the arbitrary edicts, right? That are written out by the wrinkly old men in general, that come out of Capitol Hill and the Senate and the House of Representatives. So yeah, so they're the order followers, right? And while it's important to talk to them, what's more important is the people who support statism, right? This is my whole philosophy, is that the problem is not in Capitol Hill. The problem is not in the Senate, in the White House, in the House of Representatives. It's not primarily in the law enforcement across the country. It's not in the military. The problem is that these people are given legitimacy and support by individuals across the country. That's where they get their power. That's where power originates, right? These people are just reacting to what most Americans want, right? We far outnumber the enforcement class, right? It's something like 300 to 1. We outnumber them, right? There is no way that they can control by force a population of people that outnumbers them 300 to 1, right? The only way you can control such a large population is through propaganda, subversive measures, government schooling, indoctrination, things like that, nationalism. And this is why I like to say statism is a mental illness, right? The illness is in the mind, right? The illness is not, it's not the police officers, not the IRS agents, right? It's not the FDA, the DEA, the ATS. They're not the problem. They're the symptom of the problem, right? So every time that we see a police, brutality shooting, sure, that person is to blame, but ultimately, the people who support government, the people who find it necessary, to support the state in whatever way they do, legitimize and give them strength, right? So we have to both shame, we have to use all of our methods of social ostracism, of boycotting, of podcasting, YouTubing, writing articles, blogs, writing books, making rap songs, whatever it takes. That's how you resist. Talk to your friends and family. Educate them, right? The revolution, or it must be an evolution, right? It must be an intellectual evolution. It must be a philosophical evolution, right? If you can murder all of the police, all the police officers, all the military, all the politicians, all the bureaucrats, you can murder them all and nothing will change, because the problem has not been resolved, right? The people, if they want a state, they will create it again, because that is the majority of the sentiment, right? Most people want a state. This is how it is today. This is the reality. I am trying to change that. My friends at the Seeds of Liberty and the various Facebook pages are trying to change that. And it's not easy. It's an uphill battle, as any intellectual evolution and moral progress has been in the past. It's always a difficult task, right? But we have to persevere nevertheless. And so, you know, it's tragic that these black guys got killed, and then as a result, you know, they did the shooting spree with the police. But I want to say that I don't support that. Okay? I'm not I'm not a cop apologist, of course, but I don't support violence as being the answer, right? Outright initiatory violence. That's what the state does. That's not what peaceful people do. Okay? Peaceful people raise their children to be civil, moral, decent, compassionate people. Peaceful people start businesses, engage in voluntary trade with your neighbor. That's what peaceful people do. Peaceful people don't pick up guns and just start killing people indiscriminately, because that's exactly what this is. This indiscriminate killing, even if it's of a agent of the state, right? And I understand that the state, the underlying foundation of it is the initiation of force. I understand that. And maybe if certain agents of the state were to raid your house, guns drawn, you would have every moral right to resist and fight back. You would. But that's not what happened here. These officers were sought out and they were systematically murdered. And that makes those people that killed those officers no different than the officers themselves who killed those innocent civilians. So a distinction must be made between self-defense and initiatory violence. It's a big difference. It's a difference between a mugger mugging someone and the victim fighting back, right? It's the difference between the rapist trying to rape a woman and the woman kicking, macing, and punching and kicking and maybe hopefully shooting back. It's a big difference. And that's what is important, I think, to keep in mind with this. The way forward is not through violence. That's what has held humanity back. Is this idea that some people have the moral right to initiate violence to get their way, and they call themselves the state, right? They call them, they rob from people. They call it taxation, right? They kidnap people. They call it the war on drugs, right? They murder people. They call it the war on terror, right? All these euphemisms, right? So we must recognize that violence is not the answer. We outnumber them 300 to 1. There's no need for violence if we have enough people who can understand the concepts of voluntarism, self-ownership, property rights, the non-aggression principle. No need for violence whatsoever. The tanks, the helicopters, the machine guns, it's not necessary. We, the people, the peaceful individuals, empower those of us that actually support the state, empower the state, right? So my plea is, if you want to see more peace in the world, engage with other people voluntarily, peacefully, consensually. That's how you make the world a better place. Not by shooting people indiscriminately. All right? There's a big difference between self-defense and initiatory violence. This is Danilo from Peaceful Anarchism, Seeds of Liberty podcast, Voluntary Virtues Network, and the Conscious Resistance Network. Take care.